Hey guys, I'm back. I didn't go AWOL. I appreciate all the messages checking in to see where I was at. I took a little bit of time off. As all you guys know, the work-life balance is hard sometimes. Being a present boss, giving customers consistent quality while fumbling through and learning how to run a business and still being a good husband and father is really rough sometimes. And sometimes you have to back burner stuff that you really love to do, like this podcast. And with that being said, if you guys caught my quick little intro asking that I want to hear from you guys, I want to clarify something. I've been pretty selective about who I choose to have on here for reasons. I want to have people who are relatable and who have been there and in the trenches. I want to talk to people who have something to teach or something to learn. I started this podcast because I wanted to meet and learn from other people in the industry. I regularly get emails from you guys, and I'm honored that you even care about my opinion. I'm positive there are way more qualified people out there to help me answer these most asked questions. So instead of doing the same format as I always do, I kind of want to table a few questions and have a mini series with short episodes for the next couple months to answer some of those questions that everybody has been asking. So yes, I do want to hear from you guys. I'm going to put a list of questions out on our Instagram page, such as what did you learn the hard way? What was your biggest pain point? What do you wish you knew before you started? And things like that. If you've got answers to some of these questions, I want to hear from you. We can make these short, we can make these 15 minutes, we can make these 30 minutes, we can make these an hour if you want. It's up to you guys and what you feel you can add value to. So, by the time you hear this, I want to have these questions posted. If you want to hop on a call with me, give me an email, kevin@jmwfabrication.com. We'll set up a time and we'll see what we can do. I want to start putting these out as they come. So we're going to get back into things pretty quick. So if you've got something, reach out to me, kevin@jmwfabrication.com. And until next time, get out there, get it done, and get it invoiced. Hey guys, welcome to the Welding Business Owners Podcast. We're a podcast are late, but our bids are on time. I'm your host, Kevin with JMW Fabrication. Today we've got a brand new episode series with Scott Milligan from Concord River Fab. He owns a fab shop up in Rumford, Maine, and he does a lot of railings, things like that, single owner operator, real likable guy. I actually met him when he drove down from Maine to compete in the Fabricator Olympics. Scott's a great guy, and I think you're really going to enjoy my conversation with him. If you want to follow along with all the stuff that he does, you can find him on Instagram at Concord River Fab. You can find me at JMW Fabrication, find the podcast at Welding Business Owners Podcast. And without further ado, enjoy the episode. We're implementing a job software, and on my calendar, it's had the entire day, except for like a 1 hour phone call to implement this. Well, I didn't even touch it. I just got so bombarded the last 2 days with emails, and then people are calling me because they need this job, and then they need me next week, and then this, and I swear to you, I spent like 3 hours on the phone that was just important, but it was just such a distraction. And I had a phone call with, oh my gosh, there's a job. Here's a story for you. Oh, jeez. So, okay, I am not eating any of this. Okay, let me just put that out there. Over a year ago, this lady contacted me. She wants 2 single mono stringers, just 2 of them, one on top of the other. Cable rail, everything like that. Cool. Did it. The builder is an absolute, this is literally the first time they're ever building a house. They have screwed up this house so bad that the first floor is only 7 feet tall because they went around the architect and didn't they had to lower the ducting for things, and just terrible. I feel so bad for this lady. So I get an email the other night. I get an email from the builder. Hey, can you give us a price on how much it would be to replace all the treads on these stairs? And I'm like, oh my gosh, what did you do to my stairs? So we installed these stairs August of last year. This is now May 10th. So it's 9 months later that these stairs have been in. and they're still in construction of this house. I put rain board down, thinking that they're going to be in here like a month at the most. Taped it all up and everything like that. Put it in an email. Said, hey, if you're going to leave this temporary covering on, you're going to want to change the tape out so that it doesn't leave a residue and seep into the wood and this and that. Well, of course they didn't, which I don't even think the tape was the problem. The fact that they were covered was the problem because it's at the shore. So, you've got sun coming in and they have these big giant windows, and 9 months of half of your stairs being covered and half of them not, like parts of them not, it faded. And then when you don't clean under this and you've got contractors and everybody walking on these stairs with grit and sanding dust in between the treads and the covering, it's like sandpaper on it. And this lady is just so fed up with these builders. She's like, I am not giving you your last 10%. I don't want these treads refinished. I want brand new treads. So these treads, they're not just normal treads. They are 4-inch thick hard maple, and there's 40 of them. There's like 38 of them, I think, 39. And it was like these treads are like $500 each. And then there's an issue with the wooden top rail. The finished carpenter came in, did some things to it, and the painter walked off the job. And it's all stained charcoal, one coat of charcoal stain. The painter got into an argument with the homeowner about something, walked off the job in the middle of like staining the top rail for the second time. Okay? For the second time. There's a whole nother story about why it has a handrail the second time. Not our fault either. We didn't replace it. We let the trim carpenter deal with that. Walked off the job, hired like a subpar contractor to come in and finish. Well, he took the stain with him. Instead of anybody being like, hey, Kevin, what was the stain that you guys used or you guys provided for our trim carpenter to match all the treads? This guy just goes in there on a finished product and starts putting stain on to try to make it match. He's putting black stain on a charcoal, like what was charcoal. Ruined the entire thing. Ruined it. On top of like all our posts, God knows what they did in that place after we left. Like we would typically powder coat. We painted them because she wanted to have an artist come in and do like a patina on them. So I was like, well, you're not going to be able to patina over like powder coating and have it last. So we'll just paint them. Well, chips and nicks and scratches and scrapes, and like it's satin black. Like I can't just you can't just go in there and like touch up the edges of this post. And it's cable rail. So like on top of the fact that it's cable rail, we size our center post to the exact size of the cable. And then we feed it through, and then in field we crimp on the end. And the swage connector is like maybe like an 1/8 inch bigger than the cable. Well, in order to like disassemble this cable rail, you have to cut the ends. When we cut the ends, all the cables are junk. So we're replacing all the posts, all the cables, all the treads on this place. Like it's 3/4 of the price of what it was brand new just to fix this. And I'm like, dude, seriously, like I don't care. Like it gives me anxiety knowing that they're going to eat $38,000 on this job because they just are incompetent as builders. And they're like, it is what it is. Send us an invoice on Monday.
Yeah, that's tough.
So it like instantly made my day better. It made my day better because I'm not in that position. If you want to put it that way. Well, is there anything specifically you want to cover here as we dive into this?
I was thinking about that. What do I have to offer? I've been listening to this podcast pretty much since it came out, and I've learned a lot. And what can I add that I haven't learned from previous episodes? And my superpower is networking.
Okay.
I may be able to offer something useful. I've noticed I've got some friends that are starting up their own businesses, and they struggle. they're not filling up their schedules, and they do good work. They're good guys, and I watched their they've got Facebook business pages and just the way that they present themselves. And no wonder you don't have any work. I, I've I've never really struggled with that. I think my Facebook page has 2,000 followers, which I mean compared to uh, big outfits, that's nothing. But for a little home shop in the middle of nowhere, we stay busy. People are talking about the shop all the time, and I've got somebody for everything because of all the years of networking. I've got my powder guy. Not even just metal. I got plumbers, carpenters, stonemasons. You get in with these types of guys, and when they're on jobs, their clients, hey, we need a metal person. Well, they come to me. And I see these other guys not making these relationships, and I know it's killing them. So, and that started out years ago. I used to buy and sell Toyota pickups. I built a rock crawler. That was my life for years, was rock crawling, and I didn't make any money. So I would find out, well, geez, I need a rear end. Well, I know that guy's got a truck with a blown motor and with a good rear end in it. So I'd buy that truck for next to nothing, keep my rear end, and then, well, I'd sell the power steering out of it or the transmission or whatever, and then scrap the carcass and make a little money and get free parts. And over time I get to know, well, who has what, who wants what, so I can facilitate these deals. So I'd get my stuff for nothing. And that was when I first realized, like, oh, I kind of have a knack for networking. And like, years later, that got me on a TV show. It got me at the Fabricator Olympics, and now I'm sitting here talking to you because I reach out to people. Things just kind of happen,
right? Well, you make them happen. We're part of the same Facebook groups of everybody, and everyone's like, well, I haven't had a customer in weeks. And I'm like, how do you do it? How do you go get customers? I know this question has been asked a million times. How do you get customers? And it's like, it's the same question over and over. So I think people really are going to relate to you because it's just you. You know what I mean? So I feel I have a lot of guys reach out and they're like, hey, it's just me. I really like hearing the guys who are, it's just them, the single owner operator. So tell me about how you made the jump from your 9 to 5 to where you are today.
If you want to go back to the beginning, if we got time, I'm a storyteller, and so I think it was 2013. I know it was 4th of July weekend. I started out, this whole thing started blacksmithing. I was into it. Whenever I go to the fair, first place I'd stop would be the smithy, and we dabbled in it in high school, metal trades. So I liked it. And then it was 4th of July weekend. My family was visiting, and I had been on YouTube looking up sheet metal fabrication, if I remember right. And it was, well, you may be interested in this, and it was how to build your own forge out of a brake drum. So I said, oh, hey, why not? So me and my father hopped in the truck and went down to the scrapyard and got a big brake drum from a log truck or something. And I had a MIG welder that my parents got me as a high school graduation gift. It was a Firepower FP 120. I still have it. So I had some scrap pipe laying around, and I made that forge. I used a hair dryer for a blower. I used charcoal for your charcoal grill because that's all I had. I stopped at Tractor Supply and grabbed a hammer, and I had a piece of railroad track. And got that thing running, and I made a crude little knife, but it was a knife. And then from there, I got a forge and got some real coal. Kind of dubbed around with that. I was working nights at the time, so every day, a few hours before work, I go out in my backyard and just hammer. And I'm like 3 weeks into doing this. I'm not good. I can make hooks, and I learned how to make a leaf. My girlfriend at the time, her cousin was doing an art walk. We've got a community walking path in town, and they had artists set up along the walk. People could go down and look at what people were doing or buy stuff. And she had more spots than she had vendors. And she says, hey, would you come down and blacksmith? I was like, I've only been doing this for 3 weeks. I'm not very good. And, well, it doesn't matter. We just need something. So, all right, I went down. I had made some candle holders, just a piece of 1/4-inch rod. I hammered a leaf on the end, spun them around, and they hold a little votive candle. I made typical S hooks or whatever. couple door pulls, and it was a hit. Oh, I made metal roses too. I had figured out how to do that. I was at the time I was cutting sheet metal with tin snips, and I figured out how to fold those up, and they were a huge hit. And people are asking me, like, "This is amazing." I'm like, well, not really, but hey, if you think so, I won't talk you out of it. And I sold almost everything I had, and everyone was asking for a business card. So, all right, I came up with a name. The Concord River is a little brook across the street from my house. I grew up brook fishing in it. So I said, well, Concord River Forge. That'll be my business. I had cards made up. And those roses are really what got people's attention. I made a Facebook business page, and people started messaging me on there wanting roses. And then that turned into people were asking me for the tattered flag. You know, back when those were first coming out. And, can you make these? I'm like, oh, I'm hammering steel on an anvil in the backyard. That's plasma cut. So after, I don't know, three or four people, it wasn't much, but 3 or 4 people asked me if I could do it, and I got sick of saying no. I had been looking at plasma tables for years, and I put a down payment on one. I got a plasma cam. I don't care what anybody says about those things. I love that machine. That thing has made me so much money. It's so easy to run. I got to rebuild it once or twice a year. You know, big deal. $150. I put new. It's got those crappy little cam follower bearings, but that thing has real servo motors. The height control is incredible, and the software. It's like they've made it for me. A monkey can run it. It's intuitive, and I love it. Yeah, it's overpriced and blah 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 whatever. I love that machine. So I got that. That got even more attention. I started getting more followers on my page. Before I got the plasma table, a guy that I worked with asked me if I could make him a floor grate. He had cut a hole in his floor so he could come up from the basement. And so I made that with my grinder and a cutting wheel and my MIG welder. And I welded it all up, and that thing warped and twisted. It was miserable. I had to keep slicing it with a cutting wheel and clamp it down and re-weld it and try to get that thing to sit flat. But I had 6 hours into it. You know, I sold it for $40. But I said, you know, I like this. I like not having to huff that coal smoke. I like fabricating. I had wanted for years to work for myself. It was mostly because I butt heads with people. I didn't realize it for a long time that, you know, everywhere I worked, I would butt heads with somebody. And it was usually, you know, it was that guy that everyone at work had a problem with. But I'm the only one that let it ruin my day. And I'd end up butting heads. And so it took years, but I realized, you know what, the common denominator here is me. I get annoyed with people, I guess. So, you know, maybe I should work on my own. But I didn't know what that was going to be. So when this started kind of taking off a little bit, I thought, well, maybe there's potential there. And I said, well, you know, maybe in 5 years, maybe when the house is paid off, you know, I got less bills, I could try it. And so I worked at the machine shop for 11 years. And then there's a paper mill in my town. They were hiring for maintenance. I had tried 3 times over 10 years to get in there, and they were finally hiring maintenance. So I applied, got in, jumped ship from the machine shop, got in there, and I actually shut my business down. I said, you know, I'm making, it's a union mill. Union pay is pretty good. Benefits are great, 15 minutes from home. I said, you know, I'm just going to shut the business down. And that lasted about a week. And I said, well, I'll just take on the jobs I want. You know, I'll get away from making bottle openers and little signs and, you know, just stuff that really wasn't worth my time anymore. And next thing I know, my coworkers at the mill are having me make stuff. Well, you know, I'm building this shed. I need these timber gussets. And yeah, all right. And the next thing you know, I'm working 7 days a week again. But the work is better now. I'm getting more lucrative work, stuff I enjoy more. You know, the plasma artwork is fun at first, but man, does that get old quick. You know, if I got to make another tattered flag, actually, I have to make 2 more tattered flags. My cousin just ordered a couple. And it's like, come on, man. But this is kind of neat networking. My cousin is friends with Randy Couture. He's a retired UFC fighter. So these flags are for his charity.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I've made probably a dozen of them over the last few years. And I've got a picture of Randy Couture and the country singer Joe Nichols holding one of my flags that they auctioned off. They got $1,300 for it. Yeah, it's like, oh, that's cool. Now I've got, like, if I had to, I could reach out through my cousin to Randy Couture. Like, well, there's a network path right there. But all right, so now I'm at the mill. I'm working maintenance. It's going pretty good. I bounced all over the mill. I was there for 2 years and 2 months before I kind of got fed up with how things were going. And so, it was right in COVID. Kind of COVID was coming to an end, but nobody wants to work anymore. So I said, you know what? If I do this and it flops, I could throw a stick in any direction and go get a job. I could go work this contracting companies. The mill would probably take me back. I know the machine shop would take me back. I got a truck driving license if I really had to. And I'm not too proud to flip burgers. I'll do whatever. So, not that I thought I was going to fail. I thought I was going to do well, but I said, there's never been a safer time to do it. So I hemmed and hawed for a long time because I still was going with the mentality that when the house is paid for, that's when I'll do it. But my wife had gotten a new job. She carried health insurance for us. It was it's like everything lined up. I feel like it's always a risk, but the risks were mitigated enough that I'm going to do it. And, my father has a lot of influence in what I do. I got more respect for him than anybody in the world. And he told me, he actually said, please don't quit. He says, I'm too conservative to encourage you to walk away from a steady job with good pay. He says, but if you decide to do it, I will support you enthusiastically. And I said, well, hey, what better thing can someone say? So I made the jump, and my folks live in Arkansas, but they were home visiting. They come up in the summertime, and so I'm fresh working on my own, and he's hanging out in the shop. And he couldn't believe how the phone never stopped ringing. How people kept showing up, dropping stuff off. He says, I can't believe it. Never in a million years would I have thought. I said, well, I'm on to something. And
so what year was this?
My first day full-time on my own was July 26, 2021. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm still fairly new at it. But it was funny because, the networking thing, people I had done artwork jobs for, once they knew I was full-time, hey, you made a sign for my wife. Well, I work at this electrical engineering company, and we need some electrical cabinets modified. Could you come down and do it? All right. Well, that's how I got in with the Fitch company. I've been down there to do a bunch of jobs for them, and a lot of jobs came in that way. There's a guy that he builds spec houses, and I do all of his handrails. And that started out with I made his wife some home decor and a fire pit and a 7-foot tall Bigfoot. It was all plasma work, and now he's my best customer. He's got me going with handrail jobs every week. And because of him, he's referred me to the next builder. So we're near Sunday River Ski Resort, and that place is booming right now. Oddly enough, during COVID, the construction picked up. These are all multi-million-dollar homes, and they all want what their neighbors have. And I want to be the guy that's building them for them. So I know I kind of went off on a tangent there, but I hope I answered that question.
No, that's awesome. What do you think was one of the biggest breakthroughs for you when you realized, like, hey, this is actually going to work? I could this is actually going to pan out for me.
I think it probably was when that engineering company called, because that was the first company that called me, not just, Sally wanted a wall hanger. That was, that was the first time I had to give them my information to be an approved vendor. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
I've heard about approved vendors when I worked at the mill. That's what the professionals do. And now I kind of feel like one of them a little bit. And that's happened more and more. When I worked at the mill, there's a bunch of different areas in the mill, and there's one area called the pulp mill. And the maintenance boss there, every 6 weeks they do a round of shutdowns, and they take all the mechanics from all the areas, and you all go to that area, do their shutdown. So I had done shutdowns for this guy, and about the time I quit, he quit and went to the sawmill in the next town over. So when he saw that I went full time, he called me up. Hey man, we need millwright and welding help in here. Are you interested? Absolutely. So I had to get in there. I had to up my insurance for working in the mill, and that was a big feather in my cap too. It's like, all right, this is real work. This is contracting. I've never been a contractor. I've worked with them, but so yeah, probably that first company that called me and then going into the sawmill made it feel real.
What were some of the biggest hurdles you had going from stepping up into those jobs? So, you're like you're being asked to be an
Hmm.
approved vendor. What were some of the things that you had to overcome that you didn't know when, first starting out or at
As
that
far
point?
as becoming a vendor, or like what the jobs would entail.
Well, so like for me, when I first started out, man, somebody asked me for submittals. I didn't know what a submittal was. So I just went and Googled it. You know what I mean? So, like, what were some of those moments where you were like, shoot, I don't know what I'm doing here. I need to figure this out.
Well, so I've been kind of spoiled in that respect because I knew I was friends with the guy that was hiring me to go in there, and I was friends with his boss. Uh, so, like, they told me right off the bat, hey, the contract that you're going to sign is net 90. I'm like, all right, cool. What's that mean? And they said, they said that means it's going to be 90 days before you get paid. And I said, oh, that sucks. Well, they told me don't sign the contract. Tell them you want net 14, and they'll sign off on that, no problem. Okay, great, and that's what I did. It took a long time for them to get me in the system, but once I was in the system, it was easy. Within 2 weeks, I got my money. So yeah, I got lucky having my network, people that could help me walk through it. I mean, I don't know business. I've learned a lot in the few years I've been doing. Like, I've done this part time since 2013, but I still say I'm a startup. When you go full time, it's a whole different thing. Now there's responsibility. Before, it didn't really matter what happened, good or bad, busy, slow, whatever. I've got my full time job to lean on. But now it's everything. You learn what you don't know and what you need to know. And a lot of my customers are other business owners. And I don't think a single one comes into the shop that I don't pick their brain about something. No, usually pricing. You see it on. I'm never going to be the guy on the welding business Facebook page saying how much do I charge for this job, but I do talk to people about pricing. It's tough. Even with the new line boring venture, it's like, well, I know there's some guys that charge hourly. There's some guys that charge by the bore. And there's some that charge by the bar setup. And I feel like until I've got some jobs under my belt, learn how long things are going to take, I don't know what's the best way to go. I want to obviously not leave any money on the table, but I don't want to skin anybody either. I want them to call me again. I felt like I got no business being in business if I don't know how to quote a job. And then I listened to the podcast, and it's like, wow, this guy's got 40 employees and he struggled with the same thing. Maybe I'm not an idiot. I think that the first time I reached out to you just to say thank you for the podcast, I had said that was, I think I'm a failure, and it turns out it's par for the course. So,
We're all fumbling through
yeah,
this
well,
together. Nobody really knows how long anything's going to take. We just take
yeah,
a guess at it, and you just get better at guessing if you
yeah,
keep doing the same thing. You know, if you get something thrown in your lap that's kind of out in left field, look, there's only one way to do it. It's just, I always just say break it down into smaller steps and then add those
yeah,
steps together. And
yeah. I heard that recently. I might have even been on the podcast, and it's like, yeah, that. I mean, it seems so obvious, but it wasn't, and that's a huge benefit. Yeah, break it down and then add them up.
I was saying before, we're implementing a job software called JobTread, and everything is so easy to just organize in there that, I mean, technically I'm still writing things on paper. So like plasma cutting, it's not only like you can't go by inches per minute or like how many inches the entire job is, because how long does it take you to put the plate on the table? Like you have to figure, where's your plate stored? Do you have to move things out? Do you constantly have to move things out of your way to put your plate on the table? Or do you have a crane, or can you manhandle it and throw it on? And we're implementing to be able to set up like a setup charge for the plasma table. Like it's going to take 20 minutes to get a plate on there, the computer turned on, check the consumables, and upload the file before we even hit go. And then after that, it's, whatever hourly rate we have for the table. But to get to that point, you really just have to break down the steps into bite-sized pieces and then just kind of add them all together, and then and you lose on a lot. You lose on a lot, but sometimes you win. And hopefully you win more than you lose.
Yeah. I've had I had a little job bite me a couple weeks ago. It's like probably going to be the easiest job I have all year. And that turned into a nightmare. Guy brought up his trailer fenders, a dual axle trailer, and the backside had rotted. So, all right, well, we cut that out, and I made new pieces out of aluminum, and I'm going to rivet them on. Got them powder coated, and I screwed up a measurement, and they came out too short. That should have been just the simplest job. That's another one that ended up being 2 days getting it right. I had to remake them out of steel, get them repowder coated. I had to eat that. That was going to be, it took 2 seconds to measure them, and I had to index the plate on the table, but it still only took 15 minutes to cut them. So yeah, that was a big loss. But then you got an order for like timber gussets, a whole 4x10 sheet of those, and you win big on that, because a job like that I can walk away from, go do something else while the table's running. You run a plasma table. On the more intricate stuff, you can't walk away, because every time you do, it's going to get a tip up and crash. So yeah, the thicker stuff, I can walk away, and so we win there. But man, like that, just the line boring job, I chalk up to being new equipment, and as a learning curve. That other one was just dumb mistake. So hopefully the rest of the year will be smooth sailing.
Well, that's it for this episode, guys. Check back next week for episode number 2 with Scott Milligan from Concord River Fab. If you want to follow along with all that he does, you can find him over on Instagram at Concord River Fab. And don't forget to mark your calendars for the Fabricator Olympics, September 28th here in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Get your vacation request in. Reach out to me if you have any questions. You can go over to fabricatorolympics.com and check out all the information over there. You can see the pictures from last year. You can check out some of the videos that we had made from it. And it's just a really awesome time. So I hope to see you guys out there. And until next time, get out there, get it done, and get it invoiced.